Hello, and welcome to the Crypto Beat. My name is Tim Copeland, and I'm the blog's editor-in-chief. Joining me today, we have the co-founder and CEO of Matter Labs, Alex Glukowski. Welcome to the show. How's it going?
Hi Tim, thank you for having me here.
Awesome,
Looking
thanks for
forward to
joining
this.
me. So, yeah, today's episode is around Ethereum Layer 2s. And for context, Matter Labs is the company that builds the tech for the Ethereum Layer 2 network, ZKsync. So, Alex, what's the latest with ZKsync? What's new?
To give some context, ZKsync has been the one of the first CK rollups on Ethereum, and since summer last year, it has undergone a significant transformation from being a single L2 into a what we call the rollup cluster in network of blockchains secured by ZK and connected um, in something that can function like the network of chains with seamless connectivity, with focus on the future seamless interop secured by ZK. And over the last couple of months, the network has grown significantly. We've seen several pretty significant blockchains going live. We have a lot more coming in the next future. We have the ecosystem is very diverse, ranging from general purpose L2s like Era or Kronos by Crypto.com to um, consumer facing blockchains like Abstract and Lens chain is an upcoming one, to the gaming ecosystem with several interesting um, app chains and general purpose gaming ecosystems like Treasure DAO, Exola, ZK Candy, and also especially in the light of the recent changes in the U.S. politics, what I find very exciting is the institutional rediscovery of blockchains and private chains, um, private validiums with privacy aspects. You might have seen the announcements of um, the Deutsche Bank, UBS experimenting with blockchains on Ethereum using the ZK stack and building on the Elastic network. You have applications like Tradable tokenizing private debt on ZKsync Era, making ZKsync Era the second largest RWA chain after Ethereum, holding around a quarter of the total RWA TVL of all blockchains. This is all very exciting stuff, and I'm really looking forward to the ZK powered interop, fully natively connecting all of these chains together.
Cool. So you're talking about the institutional adoption. Um, how's like serious are those experiments? Like, are these companies like trying it out because they genuinely want to start putting assets on chain? Like, sort of, how high level up in the company are the people that are like running these? Like, how sort of, serious are they taking this?
They are very serious. They have experimented with private chains, with blockchains in general. They used to call them digital ledger technologies for quite a while. And we are in conversations with many institutional enterprise projects or organizations building on chain or exploring on chain solutions. Um, the consensus, like my takeaway from reading the audience there is most of them have come to conclusion that they want to build on public networks and have access to public assets. However, they still want the high degree of control of what's happening on their chains. They want to be able to enforce business logic, regulation, compliance, but also privacy of the data. And for the first time in since I think the history of blockchains, it is becoming a possibility by leveraging something like Validium technology, where you have uh, I, I don't know. You probably need a new term. Validium doesn't give it justice. Like it's something really interesting. It's a hybrid between private and public chains, fully connected to the rest of the ecosystem, but giving the full ownership control to whoever operates the chain. Um, Many of the this enterprise customers have recognized that blockchains are just a lot more efficient ways to handle value transactions, digital assets, tokenized assets. And the broad consensus is now that this is the future. Like this year, the regulation is definitely going to come in the US, followed by regulations in other countries. Stable coins will become legal. Most of the payments will probably migrate to Web3 and will be done on chain. And with that will come tokenization and regulation of the tokenized assets. And I think we will see like very rapidly the movement of all things that touch value in the next couple of years into Web3 ecosystems. And I think
Okay,
specifically into Ethereum. Ethereum is going to be the platform of choice, or the network of choice for most of these institutions, as the most secure, the most trusted, the most battle tested settlement layer in the world.
interesting. So why do you think Ethereum um, sort of has that platform going ahead? Because sort of right now, there's obviously a lot of competition between Ethereum and Solana, and I feel like a lot of people would sort of say like short term, Solana's maybe winning the narrative game. Obviously, all the meme coin activities happening there. Ethereum price is sort of a little bit stagnant. Yeah, what makes you so bullish on Ethereum?
Uh, I think what we see winning short term is just crypto Twitter sentiment, which does not reflect the intentions of a lot of serious players. Ethereum is just by far better settlement layer. If you are considering, um, you know, huge corporate entities, institutional players that will tokenize billions of dollars worth of assets, they need the ultimate degree of credible neutrality. They need neutrality and independence from not just the competition, but also from regional regulators like the big superpowers of this world. They want a place where the rules of the game will be uniformly enforced. And this enforcement is coming from their own ability to verify, to control that everything you're doing on this blockchain systems is working, is executed as intended. You can do it on Ethereum. It's a lot harder to do on other settlement layers, like even on Solana, because you need to run a very expensive node. It costs millions of dollars to operate these nodes for years. So very few organizations can afford it. Like maybe the largest will be able to afford it, but they also want the interoperability with everyone else, and there must be consensus. And Ethereum is winning already by far, way more. You know, like it has order of magnitude more TVL, real world assets, tokenized stable coins than all of the alternative block layer ones, alternative settlement layer combined. And it has the right attitude. It embraced this idea of multi-chain world very early on with the rollout centric roadmap. And it has a significant advantage in developing these technologies with the rollup stacks and now with the advent of rollup clusters that will make the building something like this internet of value like really feasible, where you will be able not just to transfer asset from one chain to another with very low fees, or with basically with zero fees, with 0% fees, but also be able to make calls, make, you know, on a very technical level, make the interactions truly composable, even if those transactions are synchronous between different chains.
Okay. Yeah, like in terms of like the sort of emerging ecosystems of layer two networks, we're definitely seeing a lot of growth on that regard. I mean, we had Unichain very recently, and you talk about institutions having their own chains with their own controls. Um, right now, do you think it's in a little bit of a tricky period where you're still the tech still being built? It's still quite hard to sort of get between all these chains. But do you think that over the next few years, a lot of those issues will get sorted out and it will become actually like a better user experience across all of these sort of various different layer two networks built on different technology stacks?
Uh, I think the observation you just made is a very important one. most successful apps will eventually want to build their own chains and build their own ecosystems around this central core app, as we see with Unichain, as we see with Lens and many others. I think there are like dozens of successful apps building their own chains right now. So this is the reality. And this is a very logical reality. The internet is not run on a single server. So you can think of the chains as kind of servers. This is an imperfect analogy, but it kind of conceptually captures it. Uh, internet requires many servers, not just for technical reasons, but because different entities will want to have different degrees of control, customization. They don't want to share resources and congestion with other applications that they have absolutely nothing to do with. Why should a trading app interfere with the working of some gaming application that requires a lot of transactions that must be very cheap, or should interfere with some like very high frequency trading blockchain for perpetuals? So they should be able to be in charge and in full control of what's happening on their chains. And this is happening. And if this is happening, then we are already living in this many chains reality. So the question of interoperability is naturally in the foreground. Ethereum is working, the broad Ethereum ecosystem is working on this. There are multiple working groups. Ethereum Foundation is leading the charge and coordinating the L2's standards development, coordinating various future outlooks on how we can build it. Pan-Ethereum interop, but a couple of projects are specifically focused on accelerating this interoperability on a much shorter timeline, and this includes ZKsync. These projects are what I just called before the rollup clusters. The ZKsync is one that is, I think, it's by far the largest one focused on ZK, with using ZK bridges as or the ZK secured architecture for coordinating the chains and connecting them in a seamlessly unified way. And I believe that this is by far the best way to do it. And it will be very, very clear this year when the first interop solutions will be coming to life. You will see dramatic differences in the user experience and capital efficiency, in security, risk profiles of the solutions. ZK is clearly the end game. Like it has been the end game for blockchains. I believe that all blockchains in a couple of years will be ZK chains, and they will be all connected by ZK bridging, which requires shared settlement layer and a specific type of architecture. Like you cannot add it on top, unfortunately. And this is why it's so hard to connect the existing Ethereum L2s that are just standalone. You cannot you cannot do this because it requires something like a shared deposit layer, a single smart contract where all the assets can be located, so that you can do the actual settlement using pure ZK without reverting back to layer 1 transactions, which will be very expensive and will create bottlenecks. And this is what we're doing with ZKsync and the Elastic network.
Okay. And what sort of apps are you seeing being built on these chains? Maybe they're app chains. Like, what are the most interesting things you're seeing being built on these networks within like the ZK ecosystem?
So they are very heterogeneous. As I said before, we have a broad range of applications from games being built on the gaming chains and gaming platforms. Treasure DAO, ZK Candy, Exola, just building the general purpose gaming rails for NFTs and in-game payments and so on, but also like crypto native games. We have really interesting application-specific chains such as Quark ID, which is building the Sovereign chain now and as a ZK chain on the Elastic network. They have tokenized the identity credentials from the city of Buenos Aires, and this application is actually integrated into the national identity app of Buenos Aires, and it's going to be expanded nationwide. And they are also talking to other countries in Latin America to expand over there, um, which makes um, the handling of driving licenses, birth certificates, all kind of citizen identities on chain, giving these citizens full control over their data without depending on centralized solutions and centralized databases. Um, then we have a whole bunch of um, chains that are associated with exchanges, or like that are working very closely with exchanges and bringing additional services that the exchanges cannot provide, that are focused on the regional use cases, such as the most recently the led chain by Ripio, again in LATAM. Like LATAM is a very big, very important market for crypto in general, because it's the region with a very high penetration of crypto, very high percentage of people using crypto because they have to. The inflation has been rampant with up to 40% or even more in some places over the last several years. You simply cannot hold uh, your salary in the local national currency. You have to convert it into um, something more stable, and a lot of people have chosen to do it with stable coins on their crypto wallets, with Ripio, with the Lemon application in Argentina, and so on. And now they are getting a lot more opportunities to do things on chain and to do something more interesting than just simple transfers and deposits.
Okay.
Participating in DeFi, playing around with different interesting social protocols and so on. And so we see those chains being developed focused on these regional problems, and they understand the regional dynamics, the regional mentality a lot better than any global team could do. And so that's really interesting to have this network growing in so many various directions.
Yeah. Speaking as like a crypto user, like is there a case to say like things might get worse before they get better? Like right now, in fact, I saw a tweet earlier that said there was something like 2,000 chains or more, and it is getting a little bit more complicated in terms of like what you have to interact with for whatever you're doing. So, for instance, like with the launch of Unichain, I assume if I'm going to Uniswap, then I'd probably need to bridge to Unichain to start trading or whatever. Um, at what point does it become like easier than it is today to use like crypto applications? Because I feel like we're sort of varying a little bit into like the Cosmos vibes. Like whenever I would use Cosmos, it was always like I bridged to one network to because I needed to go to that network to do a DEX, and then I didn't have the native token of that network, and it was just always like challenging. Like, at what point is it going to be super like seamless to use?
Um, let's put it this way: it the best way to predict the future is to create it. Like, to get to this point, it takes an intentional effort. You need to visualize the perfect UX, kind of perfect world to which we want to get, and then you need to reverse engineer from there and see how we actually build this. I see this happening in very different ways in different ecosystems. In ZKsync, we operate like I just described. We have a vision of this multi-chain world where everything just works without having to bridge assets over, without the user having to even think about um, understand the abstractions of chain or gas or anything like this. This is why the ZK stack from day one, when it was launched, had the native account abstraction built in. So this is the very basic cornerstone of the chain abstraction, because you need to be able to pay to basically um, not care what is the base token of the chain you're working with. Different chains will have different tokens. Era has Ether as its base token, but uh, a couple of others had their own native tokens, and more chains are launching with their own native tokens. But you should be able to still pay your transaction fees in Ether or stable coins like USDC, USDT, DAI, whatever you want, or even just with potentially without gas fees at all. Maybe you have an NFT that grants you some membership in a club, which is going to subsidize the fees for you. Or you are using a protocol which is willing to subsidize the fees for you because it's a trading protocol and you're swapping tokens of some pair, and you can kind of pay the gas costs with the proceeds of the fee that the protocol is charging for in terms of percentage of this trade. Um, so this is there. Like all ZK stack chains can support this. So now the next step is to make sure that the UI can handle the bridging under the hood without having the user to bother about this. And this is why Meta Labs has been working on the front end component for this seamless wallet integration, which we call the ZKsync SSO, Smart Sign-On. This is an embedded smart wallet, like basically an embedded widget which you can use. You can connect your smart contract wallet. You can use biometric signatures like passkeys or in built-in Face ID, Touch ID of your wallet to sign transactions. The keys do not ever need to leave the device, so you can always add a new device by just adding one more key, and you can rotate the keys very easily, and you can easily plug into the native account abstraction features, and basically everything works. It's a first-class citizen on the ZK stack and the Elastic network. You can interact with any protocol by paying the fees and whatever token you want. And the next step for us is to make sure that once interop goes live, the SSO actually enables you to take any wallet you want that will be controlling, that you will use as kind of like the source of truth of your identity. It could be a crypto wallet, but it could also be something, like a web wallet, where you just log in with your Google account or your Apple account or your Twitter account. And then have a native interface where you just connect to an app and you don't care where the app is. Like you go and connect to the Lens application on the Lens chain and you start using your social profile. And you just authorize the transaction, you authorize your session key once, you confirm it with your master wallet, and then all the subsequent transactions that are lower value because you're just doing some tweets or comments or whatever, they happen inside the app. They're signed with this ephemeral session key. So you don't have to always go back to the master wallet and confirm everything with a complex confirmation window. Or you have your application, you are a user of Abstract and you have Abstract Global Wallet. You should be able to connect to a DeFi protocol on Era and do a swap or put funds as an LP in a DeFi protocol without having to bridge. You just connect to this protocol on Era, you connect your Abstract Global Wallet, you log in with it, and then you say, execute this action, and you confirm once in your Abstract Global Wallet, and everything just works. So that is the vision, and this is fully implementable with the bounds of the ZK stack with architecture that we've built. It will take some time to fully materialize, because the interop first has to go live on the protocol level, but it's very powerful. Like the interop of the Elastic network of the ZK stack is, to the best of my knowledge, we've looked at the competing solutions, at what we see being developed by optimistic rollup clusters, by other teams. We have something a lot more powerful. You can do, you have infinite flexibility. You can do remote procedure calls. You can batch transactions in these remote procedure calls. You can batch token transfers under the hood between different chains. There is no overhead in terms of capital costs, so you don't have to use intents. You can use intents, of course, to interact with external blockchains or just be compatible with applications that support intents, but the actual transfer is happening natively at the protocol level. So I am very optimistic that we will see by the end of this year, the user experience of interop will be very, very seamless on the Elastic network with applications that choose to support it.
Okay, and let's say that all happens and we see a lot of usage on these networks. Do you see value accruing towards ETH? Because like um, one sort of issue where you've seen like blobs, everything's got cheaper. You like the sort of core idea behind the layered solution was that the sort of value would potentially accrue, that you got all these layer 2 networks paying fees, you'd end up ETH burning. Now you're seeing ETH no longer being ultrasound. Do you see value accruing, or do you not see that happening from the sort of layer 2 ecosystem?
This is a really interesting question. I think that Ether, it's unlikely that Ether will go back to the fee levels the layer one has produced at the peak of um, its economic activity, where there was a lot of MEV happening on chain, a lot of bots bidding against each other, and the chain was very congested. People were paying millions of dollars every month. I don't think we will ever go back to the same levels, but I don't think that this is bad for Ether necessarily, because it just needs to reinvent the Ether as an asset class, needs to reinvent itself and focus a lot more on being the store of value and the native collateral of this emerging global Ethereum economy where everything is going to be settling on Ethereum. Like the proliferation of L2s, both public L2s, degen oriented L2s for risk capital, and enterprise institutional oriented L2s for big institutional capital, is going to make it is going to turn Ethereum into this basically the internet of value, the global economy that is happening on chain. So uh, in this economy, there is no better asset than ETH to serve as native collateral and serve as a native store of value. You cannot use Bitcoin in this economy because you will not inherit the properties of Bitcoin. Like if you use bridged Bitcoin, you will always depend on the custodial providers who have bridged it. Like you kind of like you destroy the idea of don't trust, verify. You have to trust someone, and those actors might have some economic incentives and etc. But you never have the full guarantee. But you do have it with Ether. So it's just a lot better money, a lot better store of value, and it should occupy this place, and it should focus a lot more on that. So that's on the one hand. On the other hand, I think that the L2 ecosystem needs to coordinate better and make sure that we build mechanisms that actually channel the value back to Ethereum. And we're brainstorming and experimenting. I think we'll share some ideas later this month on how this can be done in coordination with other chains. But I don't think the solution is to go back and try to kind of to maintain the high fees back to Ethereum validators. Like like you need to go forward. You cannot go back.
Okay. And I saw a suggestion a while ago, also, well, a few weeks ago or something, and it was the idea of native layer 2 networks. So, like, for instance, um, you know, ETH is easier to send or cheaper to send on Ethereum because it's native, whereas all the tokens, a little bit more computational. Right now, layer 2s are all sort of just built externally, but sort of attached to Ethereum. But then there's this idea that you could have like Ethereum itself be designed to support native layer 2s where there could be like advantages there. Have you seen much discussion of that, and do you think it's an idea that's worth exploring?
Oh yeah, that's a very interesting idea. So the idea in a nutshell is that we can create a native opcode that verifies a state transition. So like this is a big component of the rollup design where we prove one way or another, either through fraud proofs or through the ZK proofs, that the next block of this rollup is valid. Uh, and the idea here is like, let's enshrine this verification function natively into Ethereum protocol, and the rollups, instead of implementing it themselves, they just call this function on Ethereum. So in theory, this would be the better solution to what we have with the existing layer 2 landscape. In practice, though, the problem is it's only a part of the rollup design of this engine that we have that operates rollups. The other part is the smart contracts that are living on Ethereum that handle deposits, system smart contracts that handle interop, that handle some system functions. This design space has been evolving already for the past couple of years since Ethereum declared the rollup-centric roadmap. And we have quite a divergence between different existing L2s with regard to how this is structured. So if you wanted a like truly native Ethereum rollup that fully derives its security from Ethereum, like does not introduce any smart contract bugs, risks whatsoever, then you need to enshrine not just this state transition function, the block verification function into Ethereum. You have to enshrine the entire rollup. So you have to enshrine everything and say like we create this new native rollup completely from scratch, and it's like fully driven by the layer one design. And I don't think that this is realistic at this point. This will take a very long time to develop. This will discourage innovation and experimentation with the different designs at the layer 2 space. Different approaches, more efficient approaches, less efficient, like optimized for different use cases. And just from the time, like by the time this is going to be ready, I think the existing systems will be already very big and very hard to disrupt, and very hard to like force everyone to migrate from the existing rollup clusters into this new thing. Because as this like fully from scratch native rollup is going to be built, the existing rollup clusters will have moved forward, implementing some new features like the interop or non-EVM virtual machines, something like Arbitrum has done with Stylus. We're building something similar with a new proof system, which we're going to announce at ETH Denver, and a new virtual machine, which is going to support not just EVM natively with bytecode compatibility, but also other environments like WASM or RISC-V architecture, where you will be able to take contracts written or libraries written in Rust and other languages and plug them in. All of that will not be possible with like a pure play native Ethereum rollup, and I think it's going to put it at a disadvantage. Like it won't capture the entire market share, and if it doesn't capture the entire market share, then what's the point?
Sure. And I saw on your Twitter feed you talked about building the next Hyperliquid, but better and on ZKsync. Do you see that happening?
I am 100% convinced that we will see application-specific rollups, like basically the best applications, all of them, or most of them, will become their own blockchains. And conversely, we'll probably see a lot of interesting applications being built from the get-go as their own application chains. So this is where I think we need to make somewhat more progress on the developer experience side of launching a chain and operating a chain. We're working close with the rollup as a service partners such as Caldera to make this process very, very seamless, basically a one-click deploy. But it will still take time until you can, like the operating costs are comparable to just launching an application directly on an existing chain. Once this is possible, I believe that we'll see this happening. Like it will be once the interop goes live and all of this network is fully connected, and you can talk to you have access to something like 200 million users estimated, the total reachable audience from all of the projects that are currently building on the Elastic network, and all of this capital and all of the institutional capital building Validiums, all of the banks building their own banking infrastructures, digital asset providers building the custody solutions as their own private chains. the incentives to go and be part of that rather than to build their own isolated solution is going to be very, very high.
Okay. And with all these sorts of like projects and ideas, do you see like a growing role for the ZKsync token, or do you think that will remain very strictly just focused on governance?
Well, the governance token is a stem cell of a token. The governance can always vote to upgrade the token functionality to anything else, to add more functionality, to add more value accrual mechanisms to make the network more to make things more interesting. And I think we will see this discussion happening in the near time in the ZKsync community and with the ZK Nation, the Elastic Network Governance. I think that the especially interop opens the whole new dimension of what is required from a token and how the value accrual and value exchange between this network basis and all of the chains will be playing out. So yes, like I expect there will be massive changes there.
Okay, cool. And then earlier you mentioned the ETH Foundation, it sort of work with layer twos. What's your take on all the sort of potential changes happening at the Ethereum Foundation? Like there seems to be, it's very hard to sort of see what's going on. It's not very like clear what's happening behind the scenes. It's, it likes to keep itself quite sort of behind closed doors, but like there definitely seems to be sort of a push for leadership changes. Do you think changes would be valuable there? And do you think like the
I think
foundation
so.
has
I don't have necessarily deep insights into what's happening behind the closed doors, but with the global changes in the political landscape, with the new administration in the US, and with the consequences this will have on the regulatory regimes all around the world, I think it's high time for the entire crypto community to embrace much more aggressive stance on actually going and entering the mainstream space and switching from the defensive position into something that is pushing a lot stronger for crypto adoption at all levels. Not just the narrow circle of the crypto natives, the degens, but like being embraced by all businesses, enterprises, institutions, and even governments. And this kind of this change in the world geopolitics necessarily requires a change of course from each project, and especially something as big and important as Ethereum.
okay. So you think it's time for sort of crypto more broadly to be much more aggressive and sort of say like this is our
100%.
time. So how do you see the next like sort of 3 to 4 years playing out?
It's really hard to predict, and I will probably overestimate what we can accomplish in 1 year and underestimate what will be done in 5 years. Uh, I think a lot of that will depend on the pace of regulation in the US. And I think we'll see some things happening as early as summer. Um, on our end, we will be just working very, very hard to be ready for this moment where the demand for crypto just goes exponential. Like this has already started. Everyone has already realized in the Web2 industry that crypto is the way forward. Crypto is the future. Everyone is now exploring crypto solutions. As I said before, we're talking to banks, we're talking to financial institutions. All of them are aware. I mean, you've seen these pilots with the UBS, with the Deutsche Bank. They are just the first, most advanced, most innovative players, but we will see everyone else following suit very, very fast.
Okay. And looking back, do you think there's been much impact from the Ethereum ETFs?
Uh, I think yes. It's hard for me to estimate. I don't have a strong financial background. I'm more a technologist focused on scaling Ethereum. Uh, but I think we'll see the interest of for blockchains in general growing across all dimensions, including the institutional investors, you know, it's just becoming a lot safer to bet on crypto, and it will be a lot more safer once they will see that the actual use cases materialize that go beyond speculation, go beyond the crypto casino, and we will
Okay.
see that happening in the next couple of months.
Yeah. And what's your take on Bitcoin these days? Like I've seeing a lot of chatter about the sort of blocks being quite empty. Obviously, it's done very well with the ETFs and price wise. But I saw your post recently that you said you reduced Bitcoin exposure below 10%, and the same for like anything that's not ZK. So I'm curious to know like your thoughts on Bitcoin these days.
I think Bitcoin is living up to its mission, and it's fulfilling its role as the digital gold, as this global store of value that has been recognized by sovereign nations, and has the potential to really replace gold. It's better than gold in almost every dimension. Like in fact, like I cannot think of uh, where gold would beat Bitcoin in terms of its properties. Like it's
Gold's at all time
it's a lot
highs
more
right now.
scarce. It's a lot more fungible. It's a lot easier to store, easier to transact. Uh, it's. I think it will stay in its position. It will fulfill its function globally, but you just cannot do much more with it than just store and transfer, right? So that's why it's um, I think when you think of investing, um, you can be optimizing for the characteristics of your portfolio, but you can also be optimizing for the impact you want to see in the world. And I think that Bitcoin is already in good hands and well served, so to say. Like it kind of found it product market fit. We should now focus on something that will make the next breakthrough change in the world. And to me, that's clearly Ethereum, ZKsync, Elastic Network, um, this building this internet of value. I'm really, really excited about this. For the first time, we actually have all the components necessary for this. We have the global settlement layer, and we have ZK to ensure computational integrity, to ensure fairness, rules of a game uniformly enforced for everyone, secured by math and not people. You don't have to trust anyone. I mean, you can choose to trust who you want to trust, right? But you can always rely on math, and it's fully verifiable from the ground up, and this enables this seamless connectivity of all these blockchains, users, applications together into this huge composable Web3 economy, and that's going to make a big change in the world. It's going to drive efficiency up, and it's going to drive um, a lot more of true democratization, just like what the internet has done to information.
Yeah. Yeah, and obviously another important thing is decentralization. We've seen some rollups come stage two. What does that mean, and where is ZK Sync on that path?
ZKsync is working towards becoming stage one, and then shortly thereafter stage two. Uh, I'm talking about the ZK stack and Era specifically. Obviously, other chains can decide what they embrace. Um, what this means is basically when you are at stage two, you can always rely on Ethereum fully for the censorship resistance of all assets that are deposited into the rollup. So you don't have honest trust majority assumption. You don't rely on any committee. You don't rely on the token governance. You can always go to Ethereum and say, this rollup, I don't like it, I want to withdraw it, and I don't care what, no one can forbid me from doing this. So stage two is the ultimate destination for all rollups. All of them have to reach the stage two. And it's hard from a purely technological security perspective. Because if you have bugs, you need to be able to intervene, and all of the systems are being still in the process of development. There is a lot of innovation happening. You cannot stop upgrades. You cannot freeze and ossify these protocols as of now. And therefore, it would be very scary to just make them fully immutable and say, no matter what happens, no one can take measures, right? And this is why we're still in this growth mode. We're going through stage 1, stage 2. Like, I think the stage 1 versus stage 2 division is slightly, like, stage 1 is historically mismatched on where it should be on this decentralization scale. Like, I would say that ZKsync has been a lot more decentralized than the optimistic rollups for the past 2 years, for example, because every single transaction was actually secured by zero-knowledge proofs versus optimistic rollups that many of them did not have any fraud proofs live. So we have only one component missing now for reaching the stage 1, and it's being developed, and it will be shortly proposed for governance to embrace. But stage 2 is the real deal. And so, like, if you look at the stage 2 rollups that are currently live, you only have a few marginal ones that don't hold significant value because it's so scary. Because you really need the very, very high degree of maturity and confidence in the code and other additional security mechanisms that will ensure that no matter what happens, you can rely on the security mechanisms for not being compromised.
Okay. And over the next sort of 3 to 6 months, what do you think will be the biggest changes for the ZKsync ecosystem? Like, what are like the most exciting developments that you see happening?
I think it will be just growth. More chains launching, chains becoming bigger, chains becoming more powerful in terms of transaction volume, growing in terms of number of users, total liquidity on these chains, but also this institutional adoption that we've been speaking about.
Cool.
Like this private chains, institutional chains, private validiums, privacy preserving validiums. I think privacy is a very underlooked aspect of what's required to actually hit the mainstream adoption, because without privacy, it's really hard to move all of your economic activity on chain and go and do your groceries and like online shopping and investments from the same wallet, because you will be just disclosing all of your financial activity to the entire world, which most people are very, very unlikely to accept. So this will be a very important step as well.
Okay. All right. Well, that's all we have for today. I want to thank Alex for joining this episode, and thanks to our sponsor, crypto tax software provider Awaken. Make sure to follow the Crypto Beat on Twitch and Spotify, and subscribe to the Block Pods on YouTube. And as a reminder, our newsroom works tirelessly to get you accurate, informed crypto news. If you want to stay ahead, make sure to read the block. Thanks, and see you next time.
Thank you, Tim.
Okay, we are off.